Good morning, everybody. Is it morning? Good afternoon, everybody. You guys are giving me mixed signals. I can't tell what's going on. Artie, I want to thank you very much for that introduction and for inviting me here. You mentioned that I was the youngest person on that trip and that I was anointed a responsable. And as an older person now, I understand that really the old people got together and said, he's going to do it, and I was stuck with it. So thanks for bringing that up, Artie. But I'm older and wiser now. I've spent my 30s, almost all of my 30s, working in food justice with young people, mostly younger than myself, some older than myself. And I do it because I think this is one of the defining issues of our time. And I do it because it also is one of the best ways I know, maybe the only way I know, to make a true difference in all the places I call home. America, Ghana, and West Africa. And mentioning that, I want to say thank you to the drummers. I couldn't actually see them when I was backstage, but the unmistakable sound of that djembe almost made me want to weep. I felt so connected and so happy, like I've been feeling at this conference. But that sound, I don't know exactly where it was from, but it's so similar to the rhythms I grew up with in West Africa when I was a child. And it brought me back. So thank you for that. I actually wish you could come back and I could have entered with them. Wouldn't that have been cool? I would have come in. Wow. Has anybody seen Coming to America? Just like that. I would have come in, strutted my stuff. It would have been awesome. So if you're there for the exit, folks, okay, can we hook it up? That would make me feel so good. Speaking of Ghana, let me just tell you something I did recently. This is totally not in my script at all, but I was just talking with someone and recalled it. I made jollof rice. Has anybody ever had jollof rice? Woohoo! Yes. A couple people, jollof rice. It's rice, tomato paste, tomatoes, vegetables, chicken, depends on what you put in. It's a traditional dish of West Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, all around. And it's wonderful. I've never made it. I grew up with it, and I have never made it. I made a commitment to myself that I was going to try. I was going to try to put aside the busy activist, mentality and do something that was good for me, that brought me back to home. And actually, that's some of the hardest stuff to do when you're like a busy activist. But I did it, and you know what? It was so satisfying, and not as delicious as my aunt's or my mother's, but it's pretty good anyway. I'll come back to that later, because I do want to maybe touch on what it's about making commitments in our own lives, and how important small things, how even big small things can be that we do ourselves. But I was asked to talk about the Real Food Challenge, and I will do that. But I'm going to start actually from a different place. You know how the presentation yesterday about that amazing Google Earth application, and it kind of like you zoomed in, you zoomed out. Yeah, it was incredible. All the presentations yesterday were incredible, and today I now want to be like a steel worker. Does anybody find themselves? Totally, sign me up. I want to do Google Earth, everything. Anyway, but like with the Google Earth, like you could zoom in and you could zoom out, right? And that's what I want to do. I want to zoom out, way out, and then zoom back in. And to do that, I'm going to ask you to take a mental journey with me. It's a journey past three doors separated in time and space. And each of these doors has something, I think, to tell us about today in our current situation. So for the very first door, I'm actually going to try to describe it in a way that will allow you to feel it, to almost picture yourself standing in front of it. Okay, so if it would help you to close your eyes, please go ahead and do that. So imagine that you're in a room. It's about 30 feet by 30 feet. The floor is stone. The walls and the ceiling are a mix of stone and cement. and they're damp. But it's a dampness you can only smell because the room is pitch black. It's absolutely dark except for the light coming from one wall. It's coming from a low arched doorway in whose frame is silhouetted an iron gate. And as you turn to face the door and you let your eyes adjust, you can see the beach, a narrow strip of beach, and then the blue and gray of the ocean beyond. This is the door of no return. It's the last place you would touch of Africa if you were a slave passing through it on your way to the waiting ship. I stood in front of this door a few summers ago when I was visiting my family in Ghana. And as you can imagine, it's a place of true suffering. The sorrow is palpable. Millions of people walked past that very spot on their way to a wretched death at sea or a life of bondage in the New World. And if you were one of those people, you would have experienced being snatched from your village by slave raiders, being marched through the jungle, ripped from everything that you knew, shackled by the neck to other people, and you would have reached Elmina Castle, where the door of no return is, and they would have thrown you in a deep, dark, reeking, crowded pit where you would have waited maybe weeks, maybe months, until a ship arrived to take you across the ocean. And that was just the beginning of the journey. So this door represents many things. As human beings, it represents our capacity, our incredible, awful capacity for cruelty to each other. But it also represents our capacity for resilience. My own African ancestors did not happen to pass through that door. But the descendants of those who did not only survived in America, they built America. They fought for America. They helped America live up to its highest ideals. And they've opened every door of opportunity that I've ever had in my life. And so I think their story of resilience is all of our stories, and it's something that we can all drink from this well of inspiration. There's something else that the door represents, and that's what I want to focus on. It also represents a beginning, the beginning of our modern food system. In the 18th century, if you could look through that door,